Oh, there they are.
Call the roll? Yeah, that's why I'm waiting.
Good evening. Roll call for our ISSOC committee meeting. Fred Atkins.
Here.
Alyssa Brandon-Mule. Here. James Dozier.
Here.
Fred Elliott.
Here.
Randy Chris.
Here.
Chris Lopez.
Here.
Joe Mazurkowitz.
Here.
Michelle Perez Macias.
Here.
Brian Rist. Brian's not here yet? Okay. Carmen Salome.
Here.
Steve Shimp. Nope. Chris Semino.
Here.
All right.
Welcome, everyone, to our September 26th meeting of the Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee. First item on our agenda is approval of the prior meeting minutes. Yikes. It's gonna be a long night. All right, you all had a copy distributed to you. I hope you had an opportunity to review it. We have a motion by General Dozier. Who was the second?
I'll second it. Or
Chris seconded it.
May I, is it possible to put down excuse? I submitted a written excuse for missing that meeting. So make a big
You
deal.
did, yeah, and even people have called, we can put down excuse, add a column going forward to excuse, or even going back and edit this, excused, and then absent. So it'll be three you're present, excused, or absent. That's a
you.
good idea. Any other additions or corrections to the minutes?
I'd like to correct, my name is A.T.K.I.N.S. I'm not related to the superintendent. We're distant cousins.
All right, any other additions or corrections? Seeing none, motion maker and second agreed to the corrections requested?
Aye.
Yes, Chris?
Yes.
Generally, Chris? Okay, so we have a motion to amend and approve. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is public comment. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address the ISSOC committee on any matters concerning issues that we have oversight on. Any members of the public wish to address us? Seeing none, we will move on to the project reviews. Dr. Amy, you're going to lead the group? Very good.
Hear me? Am I? No. Yes, I know I'm on now. Okay. Hey, good afternoon, members of the ISSOC committee. Thanks for being here, and it's good to have you back again. We have, each of you received a packet in front of you that has various information related to our project review, including some a document with bulleted points related to the projects that are going on right now and where they are in various stages, and also including some additional pictures from our maintenance area in terms of before and after, and some visuals for some of the projects that are going on. So I'm going to call up at this point several people that are going to be able to give us some detail related to all of that information you have in your packet, and I'm going to start with our technology person, Mr. Dwayne Alton, who's going to come and give some information related to the technology projects that are being funded through sales tax. Mr. Alton.
I guess I'm just going to speak this way.
You got it.
Oh, am I on? Okay. So you'll notice in the packet that when we talk about the technology items, typically we're talking about security-related projects, technology for security-related projects. But you'll notice that those have somewhat disappeared there. It's not because we've stopped doing them. It's because we have received some grant funds, and so the security-related technology projects we are funding with the grant funds first because that's the most restrictive funding source, and then we'll move, then after we have completed those with the grant money, we'll move to sales tax expenditures. But the majority of that will likely end up being pushed back to 21 as far as the sales tax revenue. What you'll see that we did move up, as we're able to accelerate other projects now because we have the grant funds, is we've moved up what we call our Atlas project, and that is the interactive technology that's in the classrooms. If you're familiar with the current classroom setup, we have smart boards and projection systems and that. That project that we're moving up, so is the acceleration of that project, and we are in the process of going through and replacing those older systems with newer display systems. So that's why you'll see a lot of the things that we discussed the last time that we were here have somewhat disappeared from that project list and now are being replaced with the Atlas components. We're just ramping that up, and we do expect to expend in this fiscal year approximately $5.7 million on those improvements, and that's an acceleration from where we had originally anticipated that we would be able to do with the sales tax revenue for that. So it's going to shorten our implementation timeline.
Are those going to be deployed district-wide?
They are, but it's going to be over multiple years. So it'll be a 5-year cycle to go in through all of the schools, and it'll be a complete renovation of that solution.
And elementary, middle, high, or where will the initial focus be?
The focus is actually based upon the schools that we're up for because we have a normal refresh cycle for our equipment. And so it's not based on grade level. We implement those at all grade levels. But our initial implementation of the Atlas project began with Title I schools rather than go by level. So we're in the middle of one of the replacement cycles where we're now coming in and making the change to the design. So it's not based upon level at this point. It's based upon those schools whose equipment was already aging out.
Any questions with regard to technology?
So because you are using grant money, does the programmed tax money stay in security, or is that going to go somewhere else?
So part of that, and Amy can speak to the overall percentage that would be expended towards security implementations versus other projects on the sales tax list. But so part of that will stay in some of the security technology projects. We do have some that are outside of the grant that we're ramping up now. One of those is around access control, the systems that allow you to swipe cards to get in. So that remains on the schedule for this year with those funds. The future security upgrades, once the grant funds are expended, those will be funded again with sales tax revenue. However, we're anticipating that the majority of those other projects would, because of the grants that we've been awarded, the majority of that would be coming in 21. So as for what the overall mix is, I don't know if Amy has that handy.
Overall mix of how much is being spent on security versus other things, was that what you were asking?
No, my question was, you had budgeted dollar amount of tax, the petty tax.
Sales tax revenue.
For those projects, but now you're using grant money, so I wondered, where does that programmed money go? Is it going to be used somewhere else? Or
Got it. Yes. So what we'll do now is we've moved up some of the Atlas projects or the other technology projects, as Dwayne just mentioned, but also we're in the process of analyzing if we, since we have the additional revenue, what are our next set of prioritized projects that can move into the sales tax realm? And right now, we're looking at covered walkways for outside with our, outdoor structures, and then also potentially shade structures and some other things related to the academic arena. So that that analysis and prioritization is ongoing right now, probably to bring to you at our next quarterly meeting of these are the next set of projects that we prioritized and requesting to move into the sales tax realm.
Other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Brandon?
So, we're new to this with the sales tax, and we're gonna make a lot of money over the next 10 years or however long we said this thing goes, and we might even vote it again. So, what is the ultimate goal of technology into the classrooms? Where is our goal to be? How much technologied up? Are they going to be everything they do is on technology, or where are we actually going? Ultimate goal?
So that's a really good question. So when we look at as it relates to the sales tax, we've chosen specific pieces within our technology plan to fund with the sales tax. That does not mean that others won't be added to it, but right now, if we're speaking specifically about those funds, the interactive technology systems and AV systems are the only technology enhancement outside of security that we have slated for the sales tax revenue. That being said, we also bring in quite a bit of district capital funds, millage funds, that we utilize for refreshing technology. So the ultimate goal right now is to maintain the programs that we have, just provide a richer package for the schools. For example, the smart boards that they've had in the classrooms, I mean, they've lasted quite a long time. But the smart boards and the projection technologies or older technologies, we're moving in interactive panels that are, large displays that are interactive without the projection systems, enhancing the audio in the classrooms, those kinds of things. As far as the other pieces of the technology plan, as far as device replacement, what the ultimate technologies and software packages, digital content, and all that stuff we're using, those come from a variety of other sources, primarily from district capital, but also from operating for the software components. So the ultimate goal is to improve the interactivity and provide more flexibility with the classroom design, because when we look at technology, it's just a tool in the classroom, but right now our tool is kind of controlling how the teachers are able to deliver instruction in the classroom. We're trying to deliver more flexibility to provide them with, essentially provide the teacher the ability to become a facilitator within the instructional arena and not be full up in front teaching the way that we have in the past. So if we're looking at what the ultimate goal is, it's to create that more flexible classroom that allows the teachers to utilize the technology where appropriate. But there is no initiative within the district to eliminate all other types of content and instruction. We don't dictate to the schools that they have to eliminate the paper, printed books, those kinds of things with digital content. Of course, the publishers and the content providers are moving very heavily that way, but you'll notice our mix is much heavier in secondary with the digital content than it is in elementary, okay? And that's strategic. As long as we have the availability of the different types of assets, we try to implement the best solution for the particular situation rather than dictate everything is going to digital.
So do you foresee a time when every student's desk would have a terminal and a built-in little computer, and they look at their books that way, and they can hear the teacher, watch videos and things all in the same classroom, that much interactive?
Well, the students right now, all secondary students do have a device assigned to them, but it would not be a situation where we would have that built into the furniture, for example, just for flexibility and refresh. We wouldn't want to have to replace all the furniture as quickly as we do the technology.
I think I meant individually.
Yeah, so we do at grades 6 through 12.
The Chromebooks, is that technology, I mean, most of them have Chromebooks now, as that technology advances, you'll be updating technology and.
Correct. The student device replacement cycle is a 3-year cycle. So as those technologies evolve, we evolve with it.
Impressive. Business doesn't change laptops that often. 3-year cycle.
Yeah, most of them,
In the cycle of this 10-year thing,
yeah.
they'll be replacing them.
Well, I
Three
got to pick up
times.
the question because we're in a 10-year cycle of funding, right? You talk about what technology do you want, it's not invented yet. The technology that we're gonna want in the classroom 5 years from now, 6 years from now, is probably still in someone's mental drawing board.
Right.
But are we moving toward paperless books and things where they will have them on this kind of technology, so that we buy the computers, that's an expense, but then if we buy the books, that's another expense? And is there a way to get a savings by using the technology versus hard books?
So the first part of your question, yes, we're 60% there right now. So 60% of our content is delivered digitally, roughly 60%. Now, do you see major savings from that? No, because we used to buy paper. They had to print it and stock it. Now they have to host content and they have to develop the content. And unlike a textbook, the content is updated regularly, not on a 5-year adoption cycle. So it's not that we're doing that for cost savings. We do see obviously savings in other areas as far as our operations. We do not have to maintain the staffing we used to have to for textbook delivery, for example. We did not increase staffing when we implemented the one-to-one. So it wasn't a situation where going from paper to technology shifted it, we were able to reduce the amount of resources expended on the logistics for managing the paper content. But the content directly, it's not a significant savings.
Thank you. Very good.
The interesting, and this is my experience in teaching at graduate school doing distance education, is that the great thing about ebooks is the flexibility. You don't have to buy a book with 13 chapters if you can actually pay for the chapters you're going to teach. And that reduces the cost, but then you buy all the associated implementations and programmatic materials, support materials, you're back up to a cost of a book. But you have a ton more stuff available to you to use in the classroom. You know, what we used to pay for a book, we're now buying 7 of the 10 chapters of the book, but we're also buying voice-over PowerPoints, all the material, links to supporting documentation. It's a great tool, but there's very little savings because of all the other things that are available.
Correct.
Shiny bells and whistles.
Well, it's also a fact that the students can search much easier
Oh,
to find the stuff
sure.
that they want versus, oh, I know I saw that somewhere in that book, that sort of thing.
Oh, it's a great way to teach. Absolutely the best way to teach, so.
All right.
Other questions with regard to security and technology? Last question I have, the grant monies. Were they expected? I know you can't budget them until you actually get the grant, but was an expectation of raising?
Well, I can say that we were expecting some grant monies, but just like with a lot of the programs at the state, you're waiting annually to see what happens because sometimes the grant money is available for 1 year. So we had already received part of the grant money. We've already received grant money from last year's grant. But we do have to budget very conservatively because you don't know that that's necessarily happening in the next year. And there are situations, for example, even though this money's coming in through grant money, we lost an equivalent amount of money in technology funding this year. So it's one of the, I'm not saying that that's directly related, it just happens to be a similar amount of money. So we do have to budget very conservatively because state programs tend to come and go pretty quickly.
Yes, and part of it, I'm sorry, just following up on that. Part of it was unexpected. We just received word about 3 to 4 weeks ago that there was an additional allocation of that safety grant that we're referring to from the state. So it was unexpected that we were going to have those dollars rolling in.
Any other
Okay.
questions, comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have some bullet points for you on the document related to construction and maintenance. And I'm going to call up now Ms. Kathy Ebaugh, our Executive Director in Operations, to provide some detail related to that.
Good evening. So I'm just going to I'm going to start with maintenance because it's the easiest one, and then I'll give more detail on the construction. The maintenance, we have detailed information for you in your packet, so you can see exactly what percentage at what schools are complete, where the projects are, and there's even some great pictures about the work being done. In general, we're working on the chiller water system upgrades and the electrical fixture upgrades, but as I said, more detail about those projects is listed in your packet. So I'm going to now go back to construction, and we have 3 projects we are working on in relationship to the sales tax dollars. The first one is MMM High School. If you've traveled out by Gateway recently, you will realize that about a month ago we broke ground on that project. We are in the process of clearing the site, and you'll in just a couple of months you'll start seeing building going up. We hope to have building, the walls starting to be constructed in November, December timeframe. We also will be doing a major groundbreaking in November. We are in the process of naming that campus. We did a solicitation of ideas from our community for about 3 weeks. We have closed that through an online poll, and now we are in the committee evaluating those names. So very soon we'll have a name for that campus. It won't be MMM anymore, and we will have buildings and an official groundbreaking.
Who did they choose to build that building?
MMM is being built by Suffolk.
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 Yeah, they're good.
And then MM Middle School We are completing the design phase on that project and hope to break ground this winter. Oak Construction is the one who will be completing that project. So we're looking forward to that. We haven't yet started on the naming process or anything with that in detail yet. We are completing the design right now, and just soon we will hope to break ground by February is our goal, but we'll see if we make February. And then we're doing 2 re-roofs with the sales tax funds. That's at North High and Cypress Lake High. North High just went out to bid, and following it will be Cypress. We haven't yet gone out to bid on that project yet. Any questions?
Questions from members? Just the re-roofs, are those hard bids or are there CM at risk?
That's a question for finance. Hard bids.
And then that means the management is going to be in-house?
CM at risk, sorry.
You want to come up and answer that question, Frederick? I'm going to let Frederick from procurement answer that question since he's leading that effort.
The electrician in me.
Look at it.
Could you repeat the question there?
On the re-roofs, are they hard bids or CM at risk?
There'll be CM at risk. We're putting out RFQs for 3 different trades: the architect or slash roofing consultant, the building official, and then the actual construction manager.
Okay. And those all those come with a guaranteed maximum price, right? You negotiate to a guaranteed maximum price?
The CM contract comes with a guaranteed maximum price. The architect and the building official are set fees.
Do they ever come in lower?
Sometimes.
Yes, yes. Yep, sometimes I think Scott does talk about getting money back sometimes. So yes, they do come back lower.
Any other questions regarding the construction or the maintenance? Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Will the district be soliciting any sponsorship bids, is not the correct term, but naming rights bids for the MMM High School Stadium or any athletic facilities like that, like the Bonita High School?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Chris Lopez Stadium, I see it now.
First off, it's an outstanding name at the Bonita High School Stadium, Lee Health Stadium. Second, I just wanted to say that I put in a recommendation that it be named Halfpenny High, but I don't think it's...
That's a good name.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments with regard to the areas for projects? Staff? If not, we will go to the financial review.
Okay, thanks. So if you'll flip to the last page of your handout, which has the graph, and I have it up on the screen for you to look at as well. What we wanted to do is put together the revenues that we have collected to date so that you could see when the collections came in and which year they're posted in so that you could get some idea. So as you can see in FY19, which ended June 30th, but we got the discretion or quarterly adjustment in before the end of the fiscal year where we could account for that. We received $36.4 million. And to date so far, we were at 5.7. Now, I will tell you that just yesterday, they posted the new revenue, and it has not appeared because it was just posted yesterday, and that was at 5.5 million as well for the month of August, or July, collected in August.
On the data on the page before the graph, so it's the second to the last page of your packet, we have the sales tax budget to actual view, the format that we had discussed and put together last time with the help of Mr. Shemp. So you see the layout of our budget, what the actual revenues and expenditures were in fiscal year 2019, and then where we are so far in fiscal year 2020 with our budget and our actuals. So just to get kind of a view of where we are right now, the 2019 actual revenue that we recognized of that $36,452,680, If you see that towards the top of the page in 2019, and then go into fiscal year 20 actual revenue so far of the $5,754,030, that gives us total collections so far of over 42 million, which is exceeding what kind of our 6-month original budget projection was by about 5.6%. Now, again, we talked about this at the last meeting a little bit, as far as we wanted to get those collections coming in for a little while and determine what they look like to see how we would potentially revise the budget. So we're getting ready to go into some different months right now. That January through June timeframe is, I think, going to be a little bit different than what we're going to see in this September through December timeframe, when we've got, snowbirds coming in, holidays coming through, and some additional things happening. So we're going to go through this next quarter, see how those next months come out, and then probably look at if we need to make an additional revenue adjustment to our budget at that time, based on what we've seen, because then we will have pretty much a whole year of what those first collections looked like. So far so good. We're above that revenue projection that we had originally done. However, we still have some more time to really see how that might play out for the rest of the year.
Mr. Chair.
Do you have any questions at all related to that financial view?
Yes, ma'am. At the last meeting, you presented the 2020 budget with projected revenues of $88.9 million. And this year, you're projecting in 20 an 83.8 million, and moved the 88.9 to the following year.
Oh, correct, because remember when we had talked before, you had pointed out, well, wait a minute, do we have, and it turned out that we had a discrepancy where we had shifted the years. We didn't have the right year number associated with that year. So we made that correction, and now, they're lined up correctly.
Okay, so it's 83.8, but you think it might actually exceed the 83.8? Based on
Based on what we've done for the last 6 months, it could very well possibly be. And then we would look at in January how we were gonna, how that would impact the revenue, the budget then for the rest of the fiscal year and on out onto our additional years if we think that we need to adjust at that point. So where we are now, based on this financial picture, these financial projections, and what has happened with that additional grant money coming in from the state, we are now, and as I said earlier, analyzing, prioritizing, looking at some of the different projects that could be on the slate, and figuring out what we may want to put into the budget based on this additional revenue collection and based on the shift of funding. So we will come to you probably at our next meeting together with some additional projects put in there based on, these changes that have taken place. One of the things that we've been talking about, and the superintendent reminded me, was we've got traffic studies going on in different sections of the county at some of our different schools. So we do have some safety issues or safety concerns with some of the areas with parent pickup, parent drop off, and how that impacts traffic flow that creates to a potential safety issue for those students and parents coming in and out of schools, depending on how the traffic flow is set up. So those traffic studies tell us what the potential risks are and what changes could be to, for those areas in order to make them safer. And it could be that we have those to present to you next time in terms of some additional projects, safety related, that we would potentially be putting into the sales tax plan, as well as some other prioritized projects based on our conversations here at the district.
Question with regard to transportation infrastructure improvements based on safety requirements. Is the school board contemplating off-site or on-site improvements?
I'll call Miss Kathy Ebaugh to kind of talk about that. I think it's a combination of both, but I'll let her address those.
I think Kathy probably knows where I'm going.
Maybe. If you want to go there, I'll make sure I know where you're going.
Go ahead, just tell me.
So we predominantly we're looking at on-site improvements because we don't have jurisdiction over the roadways. We, however, are working especially in the Estero Village area. We're working very closely with the village on some improvements that they have undertaken on their own roadways that would affect our campuses. So our improvements were focused on what we can do on site in terms of improving our stacking, improving our turn radiuses, and our ability to increase the flow of cars on our campus. But we are working with the jurisdictions involved to address off-site improvements.
Great, that's my position, is that I believe the statutes is very clear that the school board's responsible for on-site, and the local government having jurisdiction is responsible for off-site. I realize that we have gotten away from that in the recent past, and because of the fact that if you look at the taxing methodology for the two different governing agencies, when the school board gets $1 of ad valorem tax, they send it to the state of Florida and they get some less than $1 back. When the county gets $1 of ad valorem tax, they get $1 of ad valorem tax. So if we're going to pay for which government agency has the best return on investment per tax dollar to use on these improvements, the county is a better use of the money. And I know that's probably convoluted and a lot of people don't understand that, but that's why I believe the statutes are written the way they are, because the counties put all their ad valorem tax dollars, or a portion of their, into a statewide Florida pot, and then it comes back, and coastal counties like Lee do not get $1 for $1 back. I suspect we're somewhere in the 80 cents range, 80-some cent range on the dollar we send up.
Well, so basically through the FEFP calculation, they do squeeze down our state dollars based on the amount of local dollars that we are receiving. So as far as how that's squeezed down at the state level, it's probably like, about 85 to 90%, yes.
Up to 85, okay, 85%. You're probably being very kind to the state of Florida.
Probably.
That's a position I hold very, very strongly, is that even when I used to have a position as a local government body that was helping work with the schools, providing off-site improvements, and then representing the school in front of that local governing body, and now also dealing with schools and charter schools dealing with local government bodies. The push is to get the school system to pay for or contribute to part of the off-site improvements. And I mean, if you have a willing partner, if the school system wants to do it, the local government agency will not refuse, I promise you. And they're probably more apt to ask, will you participate? But my point being, especially with sales tax dollars, this money was earmarked for schools, not for off-site improvements into the governing body's right-of-ways.
That is accurate. According to Florida statute, we, educational facilities are not responsible for off-site improvements. We can make improvements directly adjacent to our property, so if it's a street light or something that's coming right into our property, but if it's a corner street light that's that's not our responsibility, even if we are the impact.
All that stuff, that's something.
Yep.
I want to make that public. I know I've been talking privately with members of the school board and also members of staff about that, but it's something that I wanted to raise publicly, so that specifically from the sales tax revenue, those dollars were raised for school improvements, and I don't want to do off-site improvements with those associated with capital expansion. Randy?
So I drive all over the county all the time. My job's mostly outside, and I go past schools at 3 o'clock or 2:30, and the road's backed out, and you got to go in another lane to get around them. When we're designing these new schools, why don't we just make them a half-a-mile lane to get in and just plan on it? Because it was that way when I was in high school, and that was 50 years ago, right? It hadn't changed.
We are doing a much better job of evaluating stacking as we do the new campus. In fact, if you've seen the video for MMM, the architects actually did some video modeling of how the stacking on MMM would work, and it actually goes through 2 different parking lots so that we could bring more of it on campus.
They're stacking a lot more cars on campus now, queuing for drop-off and pickup.
That's right.
What they used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a much better job. I know the improvements you made to Trafalgar Elementary School was amazing. It was just a little bit of asphalt internally. It worked, it took a lot of cars off the street.
Mr. Chairman, touching a little bit on what you said about tax dollars off-site, how does some of the concerns that the community has had about student safety at bus stops, dark bus stops, that type of thing?
Well, you got it, the school board, and Mr. Superintendent, correct me if I'm wrong, is their responsibility for student safety does not start until you step on the bus. So yes, Mr. Superintendent? Yes, I see a bunch of heads shaking, yes. So that means the bus stop and the associated safety improvements are local government and community supported.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. At this, anything else on the financials? Any other questions on the financials? Remember, this is where we need our motion to approve the financials as expended and are projected to be expended for the next quarter.
You ready for that motion?
I will be as soon as I see if everyone's done with their questions.
Do we know what's projected
It's
for the next
For
quarter?
the first quarter of 1920, Amy, that's the column underneath?
No, that's correct.
Yeah, the 5 million, so, yeah.
It's the column underneath 1920.
The budget?
Yes,
Well, that represents the whole year, not the quarter.
that's right. Where do you have did you have it broken down for what's going to be spent for the first quarter?
Okay, so we don't have that quarterly breakdown here, no. We certainly can send that to you if you just wanted that quarter's breakdown.
So at this point, because we don't have that, let's just take a motion to approve the actual expenditures of the last quarter of 1819.
I'll so move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
So where are the expenditures from the last quarter?
Well, 1819, we were only grabbed the money from the last
So
quarter of
it's,
1819.
so it's the last fiscal year?
Fiscal year.
Just a
1819.
clarification, it's not the
Yes,
quarter.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for correcting that.
But, well, never-
Any other, so we have a motion. Do I have a second to that motion? Did I hear a second? Or General, second the motion? Other discussion or questions with regard to the motion? Hearing none, call the roll, please. I'm sorry.
It didn't work. Or I'm not holding my mouth right. Fred Atkins.
Aye.
Alyssa Brandon Mule.
Aye.
James Dozier.
Aye.
Fred Elliott.
Aye.
Randy Chris.
Aye.
Chris Lopez.
Aye.
Joe Mazurkowitz.
Aye.
Michelle Perez Marcius.
Aye.
Carmen Salome.
Aye.
And Chris Samano.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Sales tax dashboard review.
Yes, and before we get here, I just want to ask a clarifying question, so I know. We were listing here on our budget, the budget to actuals, the projects that we, that we anticipated coming forward for, what had already happened and what was going to come forward for the next quarter. But in the future, what you would be wanting to make your motion on is that quarterly budget, what was expended quarterly and what was budgeted quarterly, and not necessarily just the projects that were planned to come up for the next quarter. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We made the decision, we're only going to oversee the expenditure of dollars, not the approval of projects. At our last meeting, we made that clarification.
Okay.
And so we still get 2 bites at the apple because we look at them projected forward and also retrospectively after the tax have been paid out.
Wonderful, thank you.
It's probably the confusion as to our previous year, the quarter was the fiscal.
Well, that was it, right, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Going forward, we need to identify that separately,
Break that down, okay, perfect.
making that clear.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we just wanted to give you a preview here again of the dashboard. The last time we were together, one of the suggestions that came from you all is that you wanted to see the breakdown annually. Now that we were moving into another year, how could one see what happened from year to year? And so the new update that was made to the dashboard and is live on the website now for anybody that goes in, you see up at the upper right-hand corner where Kelly is pointing out, you can pull down this information to see specifically FY19, and there you see our projected, our actual revenue there, and then you could also pull down the lever to see FY20 as well. And then when you drill in, you'll go into the breakdown by school of each of the different projects that are happening at that school, depending on what year you're in. So our IT people were able to make that update to the website as you all had suggested. So as we go along now, people will be able to see from year to year what the differences are. And then also remember, we did make the change for any safety-related projects. There is no detail related to what those projects may be, for security reasons, of course. But there is a line item for that with a dollar amount for each individual school, but there would be no detail like there would be in other categories of what that work might be.
Comments, questions?
Can you tell how many people are visiting that site?
I was looking for a communications lady who was here early, Ms. Lauren Stillwell. I believe that they do keep account of how people are hitting the website. I'm not sure if they can actually give us a breakdown of how many people are hitting this particular page, but I can check with them and then come back with that information the next time or email that out to you.
I'm sure that your analytics will show how many people hit the page and their time spent in those areas.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most websites have that ability.
So, so we certainly can, if you want that information, we can get that.
Make sure that the public, is.
Well, we have tried to put this information out. We've had, our communications area has had several press releases related to our website. It's been featured on the news a few times and, driving the dashboard and showing people what was on there. So we really have tried hard to get the word out as far as the dashboard. It really is a very neat tool, and a couple of our financial advisor or investment advisor consultant was just here the other day and had shared our website with another county that he works with as a really good model of how they could show the public exactly how sales tax dollars were being used. So we think it's a really robust website. We think it has a lot of information on it, shows people exactly what's happening in their communities, at their schools, and we're hoping people are visiting it.
It's very easy, point and click.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, I agree. It's a fantastic website. It really, if you drill down and go to it, you can get the answers that you're looking for. But it does rely on the people, the public, to go and seek the answer. And I don't think that we've done enough to tell the good stories of what these funds have been. I don't know if it's appropriate to, by my rough calculations, with the grant that was received plus the additional sales tax that has been received, but, right, we're another $3 to $4 million ahead. That's a $10 million delta in the positive. Is there any way to use any of these funds to create or craft or support a communications plan which tells the public exactly what we're doing? Or are there operational funds?
Yeah.
We've created a $10 million.
Did you say a communications tool to tell people? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think that the community can go and find the information, but we're not taking it out to the community.
Taking it to them.
So whether it's a social media campaign, a marketing campaign, anything like that.
So
I think there
Stories that we have.
Gotcha.
public information, public education group could probably take on the task of creating more interest and more access to the site. I think you're right.
I think also.
I don't think we can spend sales tax dollars to promote that activity. I do think, though, the idea that, when people like you who know the numbers and research and look through the numbers and said, listen, we've identified $10 million over and above what we had expected, that's a story which maybe we want to, as a sales tax committee, I want to highlight when I make my report, quarterly report to the board, and I will do that. So that'll get some, and maybe we can get enough interest that we can catch a story or two
Yeah.
about that, because that's good news.
Let's ask them to cover it. They'll do it.
I think also too, as members of this committee, it's incumbent upon us to get that, use our circles of influence to get that link out, email it out to, because I know that I have community people looking at me, because I'm on this committee, hoping to get, or looking for me to get that information from me. So I think we should also do that. as part
And there's
of
great visuals and stories here, too.
Oh,
We see 'em.
absolutely, yeah.
The new roofs and the security enhancements and all of that would make a great story.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's getting into the public's
I
hands.
think that's a great idea, and that if we could share that with your public information group to go out and see.
We do
if
that.
can solicit some stories about the great work that's occurring as a result of the good news coming in, with additional revenues coming into the district.
Good. So absolutely, we will work with our communications group and see, we also have, consultants that we work with in addition to our communications group who could potentially help us with that, with that marketing as well. So we will take that up and try to see what work we can do with that and bring you back some updates related to that. It is true that we couldn't use, the statute is very specific about how you can use sales tax funding, so it must be all capital type expenditures. So we couldn't use our sales tax funding for that effort, but it could still be done.
I tried.
Yeah, I know, right.
Any other comments or questions with regard to the sales tax dashboard review? Hearing none, we'll go into members' comments. Any members wish to make any comments? All right. If there's no other business, the chair would accept the motion to adjourn.
May I ask
Yes, sir.
a question? Is there any metrics that we could utilize to show the impact of the investments that are being made? And I don't know exactly, it just came to me, but whether attendance is up, comfort is up, staff or teacher retention is improving because of, we're putting the money into the school system. Is it driving metrics that matter?
Yeah, security issues
Security
have dropped.
incident, yeah, so this is a significant investment in the school.
That's a good idea.
How
And
do
just
we
show
measure?
them, what we've accomplished, and it wouldn't have been there without that money. Because the people were generous to vote this in. And we could say, okay, we got this much done, we paid for this school, we didn't have to borrow money. These are the positives, because 10 years is gonna go by real fast, and these guys are getting used to this money.
I don't know if we want to put it that way. Board member, our liaison.
This is completely off topic, but this will be my last ISSOC meeting, which makes me really sad, but I will be rolling off of Finance Advisory, and the Finance Advisory Board liaison is automatically the ISSOC liaison. So this will be my last meeting with you. I will tell you, and I know I started by telling you how tremendously grateful I am. The automatic credibility that the names at this table bring to this process has been tremendous for us. And I have to say that in the questions that you ask as you come here each quarter, I've learned something about this process, and it's allowed me to ask some better questions at the table. So thank you very much, and I will miss you guys.
Thank you. Well, we'll see you.
yeah.
You're not going away, are you?
No, I'll still be on the board. I'm just going to be on a different committee.
Any other member comments?
If I might, I just wanted to speak to the metrics to show the impacts. So we will work on gathering some of that information. Part of the reason why I think we can show things. So of course, with our new school building, it would be things such as class size or number of rotating teachers, which would be moving down, or number of portables across the district, which should be moving down because of our new buildings. As far as some of the projects that we put into the sales tax, many of those were chosen because it should drive additional operational efficiency. So if we're putting on new roofs, or we're putting on new windows, that should be bringing down the cost per square foot of our electricity and things like that. So some of those may take some time to bear out. But we will be gathering data such as that, and we'll be putting our heads together to figure out what else can we put together that will be showing, be able to show the publics what the tangible benefits of these different things that we've been able to do because of the fact that they so generously voted for this money. We'll be able to communicate those effectively.
That would be excellent. And you just thought about things just on the spur of the moment and responding that we didn't even think of, so that's great. When you get your heads together, start thinking about the real fiscal impact for reoccurring expenses, annual expenses, and the investment of capital, reducing that, I think that's going to be very powerful.
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Just thinking about getting the word out. I mean, I know that we're all very busy, but maybe there's something at particular schools or a school in our community that we, maybe a SAC meeting or something that we could just show them the dashboard, and just to be there and say, hey, this is what your money's doing and this is how you can find out more about it. I could certainly volunteer to do at least one of those in, the near future, so.
We all have different avenues to which we can get out. We need to use them.
Joe, how about a presentation to the Thursday morning meetings?
Sure. I would love to wait until we have the matrix where we can show the actual fiscal impact of the reoccurring costs. So if we could wait a quarter of that, then we could go do that. I think that's the bottom line, end all, how business would look at this. And if we could show the districts looking at this just like the business is looks at it, the capital investment to show the reduction in reoccurring costs and the enhancement to the process, better teachers, all the different things that you mentioned, Chris, I think that would be a very powerful story.
I think UPAC would be a good vehicle.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Any other members' comments?
Next meeting is 19 December, is that correct?
Yeah.
Sir.
Should have it on that.
Yep, we've already agreed that we're willing to come in that late in December. God bless all of you.
We'll bring holiday cookies.
Cookies and eggnog.
All right, if there's no other business, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Motion by Fred, seconded by Randy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed,
Enjoyed it.
same sign.
Thanks, guys.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Great. Staff, thank you.